as far as we can tell, BioShock is over, boys and girls. With the new Burial at Sea Episode 2 DLC that just came out several days ago, about a week ago actually, and I played it the day after it came out. I just haven't been able to talk about it until now. The story for BioShock as a franchise is pretty much at an end. And what a hell of a way to go out. Pardon me. The last episode of the Burial at Sea DLC, and I won't go into spoilers with this, trust me. This is something that you should experience on your own, and if you haven't yet, I'd say go play it first just in case. I don't know. I'll try to warn you if I do go into spoiler territory on this. But the way that Episode 2 of Burial at Sea ties the whole franchise together, the three main games, and then with Episode 1 of the Burial at Sea DLC, it's brilliant, and it really makes, even more so than the ending of BioShock Infinite, make this whole franchise feel like one giant, expansive, brilliant universe that just all gels together really, really, in really fascinating ways. And BioShock, to me, if you can't tell, I like BioShock. I like BioShock a lot. And BioShock Infinite is actually one of the few times that I've paid full price, like, you know, just after release day for a game. Yeah, that's not something I typically do. And I hadn't even played the first two at that point. This was, man, it's been almost a year, hasn't it, since BioShock Infinite came out. I just heard so much hype and so many good things about it, so many just amazing, groundbreaking things. And from what I had seen, it looked like a game that I would absolutely love. But I'd never gotten into first-person shooters before BioShock, and Infinite was the game that got me to change my very callous, biased views on FPS games. And before then, you know, I had the shallow, biased opinion of, well, first-person shooters are just Call of Duty. They're all just copy-paste the exact same game. They're all Call of Duty or Halo. They're all the exact same game over and over. And that really isn't the case. And over the past year or so, I've come to realize that as I've, you know, expanded my views and I've played more very good first-person games like the entire BioShock series and Borderlands. I haven't played the Resistance games yet, but I still need to get around to that. So, BioShock means a lot to me. As far, like, aside from just being a great game, and really one of the best games I've played in a long time, it really, you know, opened my eyes to more games that I would have just avoided like the plague otherwise, just because of the genre they were. That's just how I felt about FPS games before, because I didn't grow up with any good FPS titles. I just made the assumption that they were all crap and they were all the same. But what drew me to BioShock Infinite, what makes I still suck at FPS games. I'm terrible at them, absolutely awful. I still play all these games at like easy difficulty, medium at the highest, which I know a lot of people will probably say that I really suck, and I do. I suck at these games. I really, really do. I have to like handicap myself like crazy to get through these games. I mean, if you play BioShock on easy difficulty, you're not going to have much of a hard time, really. I mean, the easy difficulty is pretty easy, even for, you know, noobs like me. But what made me keep going in the BioShock series, even when, you know, me being unaccustomed to the control scheme, or, well, yeah, mostly that, or just being unaccustomed to the genre in general, was the story. And the story is brilliant, and I actually did go back and play BioShock 1 and 2 after I finished Infinite. And thankfully, the PS3 version of BioShock Infinite comes with a digital download of the first BioShock without any of the DLC, anything. It's just the bare bones game. So I was able to play through it that way, and then I rented BioShock 2 and played through that. And I like BioShock 2, it's just not nearly, the story isn't there like it was in BioShock 1 and in BioShock Infinite. Anyway, yeah, so that's my background on BioShock and what it means to me and why I feel so attached to this series, and I'm really sad to see it go. And as you know, a few weeks ago, sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, Ken Levine, I'm honestly not sure, announced that Irrational Games is breaking up and the company is no more, and Ken wants to focus more on indie games from what I've heard, which will be interesting, and I'll still check out everything that guy puts out, because, damn, the guy can write a great story and make a great game. And it's arguable that BioShock Infinite, that that the gameplay itself isn't as good as the story. I don't know, I still think the gameplay is really fun, even for someone who is terrible at FPS games and has no idea what the hell he's doing in FPS titles. I had a lot of fun with the combat and the playstyle in Infinite. I enjoyed the gameplay in the first two BioShock games, but I think it was, personally, I think they actually did perfect it a little bit for Infinite. And I think, and this is coming from from playing the console versions, playing the PS3 versions. So I've heard the PC versions, control scheme-wise, the first BioShock just felt a little clunky with the button placement on the DualShock 3 to me. And I feel like in BioShock Infinite they fixed all those problems. Even though a lot of people don't like the two-gun system, it doesn't really bother me all that much. Anyway, Burial at Sea, the Burial at Sea DLC. And I haven't really played the Clash in the Clouds DLC that much because, like I said, I suck at the combat. So I tried it and I was terrible at it, so I never really went back to that. And I should, I guess, just to get the trophies. Just to have the complete experience. Because I did buy the season pass, so I got both episodes of Burial at Sea as they came out. And episode 1 came out back in November, I think, and I liked it. Even if the film noir setting that they were sort of advertising with it wasn't really, I mean, that's just the vibe I got from the character designs and from the little snippets and trailers that they put out for episode 1 of Burial at Sea. And it isn't totally like that. Not completely. But I love the way that Burial at Sea episode 1 fused together the look and feel of the first BioShock with certain characters, certain well, it was more like settings and like the atmosphere of the original BioShock mixed with the characters of BioShock Infinite. And that was really awesome. Because you had more of the sense of dread and fear and horror that the first two BioShock games have, especially the first one. Mixed with more a setting that looks a little bit more like BioShock Infinite, and with characters that are more from BioShock Infinite, and with themes that are more from Infinite. And episode 2 continues that. You actually do get to see the sort of like meshed setting, the sort of meshed timeline from Burial at Sea episode 1 for a little bit in episode 2. You get to play through it, and as you probably know, in episode 2 you're playing as Elizabeth. I'm not going to spoil episode 1 because still, and I still would say play episode 1 before you play episode 2, even though I don't think it's essential, because it actually does like sort of recap it for a little bit. And when you download the episode 2 DLC, at least on the PS3 version, I'm not sure if it is, it probably is on the other versions, but it actually comes a little like previously on BioShock segment where all it does actually is just recap the spoilers from the first game and the twist at the end. That's really all it does. And speaking of the twist at the end of BioShock 1, this game is all about, the DLC, Burial at Sea Episode 2, is all about closure on that. It answers all the little questions that you had about the franchise and how everything fits together, it answers all the little questions, and then, pardon, it answers all the big questions that you had, and then also kind of skirts around and says, "Oh, here's some little questions you might have had. We're gonna answer those too," and just tie everything up in a nice little bow for you. And I really do think episode 2 is much more impressive, both visually and gameplay wise, and just as an add-on as a final installment than episode 1 was. Episode 1, now that I think about it, feels more like a sort of prologue to this. More than anything, it feels like just a little prologue, and then episode 2 is the real meat to this add-on story, this closure. Yeah, I really, like I said, I don't want to spoil anything. This just came out, less than a week ago. Absolutely play it. I highly, highly recommend this. If you're a fan of the BioShock series at all, you have to play this. This is absolutely essential. This is an essential playthrough for anyone who's a BioShock fan in the slightest. Like I said, I like how different it is. It's very different than anything else BioShock has put out. And actually, with playing as Elizabeth, it actually has a focus on stealth gameplay, like something you'd see in Dishonored or one of the Thief games. And it works really well, even though it's fairly rudimentary, I'd say. It works really well. There are no major problems with this for the BioShock series to jump into a gameplay format that's so drastically different. It works very, very well. But again, like I said with the rest of the series, what really works here is the story and the characters. And yet again, this game is beautiful. This game is absolutely gorgeous, and yeah, BioShock Infinite really is one of the best looking PS3 games I've ever played. And this continues on with Burial Sea Episode 2. Because with the human characters, you can see in the credits they're all motion capped. And it works pretty well. There are a few times where like in the earlier BioShock games, where the facial animations get a little rubbery or a little off with the lip movements, things like that. But it honestly looks really well. And also the length. It's about the same length as Burial Sea Episode 1. I finished it in just under 3 hours, which that was me playing on easy and just because I suck. So that was me playing through it pretty quickly at about 2.5 to 45-ish. And the ending does seem pretty abrupt, the ending to it, because there's so much more going on in this episode than Episode 1. Episode 1 sort of felt like one thing going on the whole time. Episode 2 is throwing so much at you, and not in a sense where it's cluttered, but in a sense where you really don't know where it's going to go next or what it's going to wrap up next. And the settings for this are really fresh and really new compared to anything else you've seen in the BioShock series. Yeah, I really want to talk about it, but I don't want to spoil anything. I'll just say that the ending wraps it up in a very quiet, melodramatic way. The franchise goes out on sort of a whimper, but in a good way, not in a bad way. It doesn't go out on any sort of huge gasp ending like the way that Infinite ends, or the way that the first game ends, or anything like that. It's very much just like I said several times, closure. It is very much that. It's a 2.5, 3 hour epilogue to the franchise, and I think that's brilliant, and it pulls it off perfectly. I don't really know what else to say about it. Now that the series is essentially done, I guess I I guess I should get around to reading BioShock Rapture. This is a tie-in novel that takes place, from what I've read of it, it takes place before the first BioShock and explains how Andrew Ryan actually built Rapture. So it's, from what I've read, it's very interesting, but at the time I was still playing the first 2 games, so I didn't want to spoil anything from those games, because apparently the book, there's like a little warning in the book that says, don't read this if you haven't played BioShock 1 and 2 yet. So now that I have, I can actually go back and finish this, and it's the only tie-in novel in the BioShock franchise. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure it's the only one. So I guess then I can completely wrap up everything and have played everything in BioShock. Except for that one DLC from BioShock 2. We still need to play that. But, yeah, I guess that's it. If you don't have the season pass, I'd say it's still worth it. The season pass is a really good deal for what you get, because I still think you should play episode 1 before you play this, because episode 1 is still good. It's still a good DLC, and it was still pretty fun for what I got. But episode 2 is really the meat of where your money's going to go, as far as the 3 DLC that you're going to get. Episode 2 just feels the most fleshed out, it feels the biggest, it feels the most satisfactory of the 3 DLCs that came out for BioShock Infinite. Yeah, I highly recommend it. If you've played Infinite, absolutely play this. To really get the full story for BioShock, you have to play this. And now that Irrational Games is gone, that pretty much means we're not going to get another BioShock title. And this is the final DLC, so this isn't like going to be some sort of fake ending. This is the end. And I think I've rambled on way too long about this, so yeah. Excellent DLC. Completely loved it. Absolutely highly recommend it. Yeah, play it. I love BioShock.